She returned home after a night with that homewrecker. I greeted her with a smile. "I see you've been busy," I said, pointing to a USB drive on the table. "How about we take a look at what you've been up to?" The smell of her cheap perfume still lingered in the air as she walked through the door. I smiled, not because I was happy, but because this time, it was my turn to surprise her. When she saw what I had placed on the table, her silence spoke volumes. And believe me, this was just the beginning. After leaving a voicemail for my wife, Molly, whom I had been married to for 5 years, I glanced at my phone one last time. I had just closed a huge deal with a major California company, one of those with branches all over the country. I knew my boss, Brad, would be thrilled. This contract meant growth for our company and a nice raise for me. Maybe now, I thought, Molly and I can finally start the family we've always dreamed of. But something was bothering me. Ever since I returned from a recent camping trip with Brad, Molly hadn't been herself. Distant, cold, easily irritated. And it wasn't just a mood swing. Right after I got back, while doing laundry, I noticed something strange about her panties. A different texture, a strong odor I couldn't ignore. Reality hit me like a ton of bricks, and I felt my world crumble. Desperate to know the truth, I decided to consult a lawyer before returning to the West Coast. If Molly had cheated on me, I knew it would be irreversible. I contacted Lydia, a lawyer specializing in family law and divorce, recommended by a friend who had gone through a messy separation. "Are you sure Molly is cheating on you?" Lydia asked after I explained my suspicions. "Not 100%, I admitted, but I need to know. If she is, I want a divorce." "Divorces here don't usually require proof of fault," Lydia explained. "But you can invoke infidelity, provided you have solid evidence, photos, videos, that sort of thing." "And what exactly would I need?" I asked, my stomach in knots. "A private investigator can get to the bottom of it, if you want," she replied. I nodded, and she offered to contact one. "Since you both earn about the same, and you have no children or shared property, it will be a simple divorce. If the infidelity is confirmed, we can use it to get a better deal for you." "All right, let's do it," I said. "I'll be out of town for 3 days, so it might happen during that time." She contacted Rick Simons, the investigator, who suggested I install a tracking app on Molly's phone. He also offered a device to record calls on our landline and a small voice recorder to slip into her bag. I hated resorting to this, but I needed to know. As the days passed, even Brad started acting strangely, as if he knew something I didn't. It only increased my anxiety. Finally, the day arrived. Molly drove me to the airport, kissed me, and I promised to call that evening. When I did, she surprised me by saying she was going to work as a waitress at a party hosted by Brad. One of his servers had canceled, and he had asked Molly to fill in, offering her $150 for the evening. "Okay, but be careful," I said, trying to sound natural. "Tell me all about it tomorrow." "Of course," she replied. "You know I love you, right?" "I love you too, Molly," I said, hanging up with a pit in my stomach. I immediately called Rick to tell him where she would be that night. "We'll keep an eye on her and keep you posted," he promised. The next day, I tried calling Molly on her cell phone, but she didn't answer. I tried the landline, same thing, it went straight to voicemail. I forced myself to believe she hadn't spent the night at Brad's. I got through the day as best I could until I received an email from Rick. Molly spent the night at Brad's, and she's still there. Attached were photos I'm not ready to forget. She wasn't alone with Brad. There were 2 other men, guys I considered friends. My hands started shaking as I looked at the images. I could barely breathe, let alone think. I tried calling her again, but it went straight to voicemail. I went down to the hotel bar to drown my rage. The next day, I checked the tracker. Her phone was still at Brad's. A new email from Rick confirmed, with more photos, that she was with a large group that included Brad's son, Math, and several employees from Brad's IT team. There were also guys I didn't even know, probably Math's friends. I felt sick to my stomach. With the contract signed, I packed my bags, left the hotel, and took an earlier flight home. When I arrived, Molly's car wasn't there. I went inside, changed clothes, and then called Lydia. Her secretary told me she could see me in the afternoon. When Molly finally answered the phone, she sounded a little breathless. "It's me," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "Where are you?" "At home," she replied calmly. "I'm taking care of a few things before school starts." I swallowed that lie. "Well, I'm finished with what I had to do in California. and I'm already on my way. Oh, okay, she replied in a softer voice. I miss you so much. Call me when you land so I can pick you up at the airport. That's not necessary, I replied. I'll take a cab. I hung up, realizing I hadn't told her I loved her or mentioned that I was looking forward to seeing her. She must have noticed. Sighing, I left the house and headed to Lydia's office. Meanwhile, I imagined Molly looking at her phone, perplexed. I usually ended our calls with "I love you," but not this time, and my voice had probably sounded colder than usual. She had planned to come home after the first night, but lying between Brad and his son was too tempting to leave. She had convinced herself that everything would end once classes started and that I would never find out. So, she had stayed another night, welcoming Brad into his own home where he had found her in bed with his son, Math. Brad had simply smiled and said, I think I'll be sending your husband on more business trips. You know my classes are starting soon, she said, laughing as if it were all a game. I'll be busy all week. I would never do this with him around. Why not? Brad provoked. Maybe he'd like to see what real men can do. Brad and Math burst out laughing, clearly pleased with themselves. I really enjoyed myself, she said. But I don't want to hurt Mason. I still love him. Well, maybe I'll make sure he's away for another weekend, Brad suggested. So you can visit us again. Sounds nice, she replied with a small smile. But he'll eventually find out. Mason isn't stupid. Brad shrugged and grabbed a camcorder. Don't worry, I'll take care of Mason. But listen, I don't want you to be with him anymore. Now you're ours, understand? Okay, she murmured. I'll think of something. And that's how Molly became someone I no longer recognized, enjoying the attention of Brad's friends and colleagues, as if she were participating in some twisted party. When I finally saw all the evidence Rick had collected, it was a shock. There were photos and even 2 DVDs of her with multiple men, doing things she had never done with me. Look at this. It was like seeing a stranger, a person unrecognizable in her actions and choices. Lydia tried to comfort me, but it was clear there was no turning back. Why did she do this? I murmured, still in shock from the betrayal. After 5 years together. And Brad too. Someone I considered a friend. We're going to proceed with the divorce on grounds of infidelity, Lydia confirmed. I can also file a suit for alienation of affection against Brad and the others. It may not be easy to win, but we can get a good settlement. Do what you have to do, I replied, my voice empty. Just keep everything under control. Don't do anything stupid, Lydia warned me. I won't do anything, I reassured her. But for me, it's over. I can't work with Brad anymore. I can't stand being near him or those guys. I left Lydia's office, sat in my car, and looked up Gabriel Nelson's number, CEO of Empire Nelson. Gabriel Nelson speaking, Gabriel answered. Gabriel, it's Mason Ford. Mason. Long time no see, he replied warmly. How are you doing? Could be better, I admitted. Is that position at Empire still open? Gabriel had been trying to recruit me for a while, but out of loyalty to Brad, I had always refused. That loyalty no longer existed. Of course it's still available, he replied. Have you finally decided to join a real team? Yeah, something like that, I replied, holding back the truth. Let's just say I realized I couldn't stay where I was anymore. I'm sorry to hear that, Mason, he said. Is there anything I can do? Give me the job, I said. I'll give you everything I gave Brad, and more. No problem, Gabriel said. How about you and Molly come over for dinner tonight? Rose makes a lasagna to die for. We can talk about all this calmly. I'd love to, but I won't be coming with Molly, I said seriously. Oh, he paused. Is everything all right? I'd rather explain in person, Gabriel, I replied. Let's just say it's complicated. Okay, he said, clearly concerned. Listen, Rose is a certified counselor. If you want to talk, maybe she could help. That sounds like an excellent idea, actually, I replied, grateful for the offer. Come around 6:30, Gabriel suggested. Perfect, I said, looking at the time. Today at 6:30. Thanks again, man. Hanging up, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. With Gabriel's offer confirmed, the future seemed a little brighter. I started the car and went home. Molly still hadn't arrived. I grabbed my briefcase, went inside, and went straight to take a shower. After changing, I sat down at the computer to write my resignation letter. Around 5 p.m., Molly finally came home. Seeing me at the computer, she came over to kiss me. I turned my head, and she ended up awkwardly kissing my cheek. Everything okay? She asked, clearly surprised. Not really, I replied. I'm feeling a little sick. Probably jet lag, or something. I'm going to sleep on the futon tonight. Are you going out? She asked, her eyebrows furrowed. Are you coming back? I have a dinner planned, I said, ignoring the worried look that had just appeared in her eyes. Are you seeing another woman? She asked, her voice tense. Are you wondering if I'm cheating on you? I've never cheated on you in all our years together, I replied, and I don't intend to start now. Can you say the same? Her face paled as she stammered. Of course I can. She tried to change the subject. And the trip? Did it go well? Fine, I replied dryly. And your little job at Brad's? Did that go well? She looked away for a moment. Even the hard parts. It was fun, I guess. I imagine. I replied emotionlessly, looking at the time. I stood up. I have to go. I saved what I was working on and went into the bedroom to put on something more formal. When I came back, Molly was still sitting on the couch. Are you going to be late? She asked, trying to sound relaxed. I don't know. Don't wait up, I replied, heading for the door without another word, not even looking back. She watched me leave, surely noticing that this time, I hadn't kissed her or told her I loved her. As soon as I left the garage, she grabbed her phone and called Brad. She had no idea every word was being recorded. Brad, I think he knows something, she said anxiously. What makes you think that? He replied. He didn't touch me. Normally, he kisses me, tells me he loves me, but today he was cold. He said he had dinner plans, but didn't say with who. So what if he knows? Brad replied indifferently. You can always come live with us. Don't worry about math. I'll keep him busy enough that he's almost never home. But I don't want to lose him, Brad, she insisted. I still love him. Brad laughed. Oh, of course you love him. You've shown it quite well these last few days. Stop it, she said firmly. I know what I did, and I liked it, but that doesn't mean I want to lose Mason. Brad's tone turned icy. Listen, relax. He'll get over it. And if he doesn't, we'll take care of it. Now, you're ours, understand? And you're going to help us keep things under control. You wouldn't want the school board to see these recordings, would you? You wouldn't dare, she murmured, horrified. Oh, but I would love to, he replied with contempt. We have plenty of videos of you in compromising positions. So, your dear Mason better stay quiet. Her defeated sigh was the last thing I heard before the recording ended. I clenched my teeth, trying to contain the disgust rising within me as I arrived at Gabriel and Rose Nelson's two-story house. I grabbed the bottle of wine I had bought on the way and rang the doorbell. Gabriel opened the door with a warm smile and accepted the bottle with a nod. Come in, Mason. Thanks for the wine, he said. It will go perfectly with dinner. He led me to the dining room where Rose was setting the table. Mason, this is my wife, Rose. Rose, this is Mason Ford, our new director of operations, Gabriel introduced. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Nelson, I said, shaking her hand. Please, call me Rose. Mrs. Nelson is far too formal, she replied with a warm smile. We sat down, and Rose served her lasagna while Gabriel poured the wine. The meal was incredible, and I couldn't help but compliment. This is the best lasagna I've ever had. I'm glad you like it, Rose said. It's one of my favorite recipes. After some small talk, Gabriel gave me a curious look. So, Mason, what made you leave Brad's company so suddenly? I hesitated, then replied, It's a long story, I said, taking a moment to gather my thoughts before telling him everything. When I was finished, Gabriel shook his head, visibly shocked. Unbelievable, he said. I'm sorry, Mason. Something similar happened to me, although under different circumstances. And besides accepting this position, what are your plans? I've filed for divorce from Molly, and I have a lawyer. My lawyer told me that, given the circumstances, it should be a simple separation. Rose looked at me with empathy. Have you thought about therapy? I shook my head. It went too far. I don't even know who she is anymore. How are you handling all of this? Rose asked gently. Honestly, not very well. My lawyer advised me to pretend to act normally with her, but it's difficult. I can barely look at her. Seeing a psychologist could help, Rose suggested. If you'd like, I'd be happy to talk with you. Gabriel smiled and added, Rose is exceptional at what she does. She was an angel for me when I was going through a rough patch. I thought for a moment. I'd be very grateful, Rose, I said, nodding. Good man, Gabriel said, clapping me on the shoulder. Take all the time you need. Just let us know when you're ready, and we'll adjust. We finished dinner, and Gabriel took me to his office to discuss my new position over a glass of cognac. We spent the next few hours talking about the team, the projects, and my responsibilities. When we were done, I felt like I was finally regaining control of my life. I shook Gabriel's hand, thanked him, and went home. I arrived around 10 p.m., saw the lights were on, and went inside. Molly was sitting on the couch. She looked at me and asked, "So, how was the meeting?" "It was good. Thanks for asking. I'm going to bed," I replied dryly. "If you don't mind." I went to the guest room, where I had set up my computer, and started to change. Molly appeared at the door. "You're sleeping here now? I already told you I'm not feeling well." "The futon is fine," I said, cutting the conversation short. She hesitated. "It's just that you've been gone for a few days, and I thought maybe, I don't feel like it," I replied, feeling a wave of disgust at the thought. "Okay, maybe tomorrow," she asked, almost in a whisper. I didn't answer. She turned and left, probably wondering if I knew something. The next morning, I got up early, grabbed my resignation letter, and downloaded the recording of her conversation with Brad. Without a word, I left the house. When I arrived at work, I barely greeted anyone. I went straight to my office and started packing my things. Brad walked in, looking confused. "What's going on?" he asked. I handed him 2 envelopes. One contained the signed contract for California, the other my resignation letter. "It's over. Effective immediately. I expect my bonus, my last paycheck, and payment for my accrued vacation time." "A resignation? Are you serious?" he stammered. "Why are you leaving?" "Don't play dumb," I replied. "I'm not an idiot, Brad. I can't work here anymore. I'm leaving for another company." "Wait, Mason, talk to me. There's nothing to say. I thought we were friends, but you betrayed me. You destroyed my marriage." I held back the rage that was boiling inside me. "Come on, man," he groaned. "It's not like I forced her. Molly was more than willing." "Is that what you believe?" I asked, incredulous. "How long has this been going on?" Brad leaned against the wall with a cynical smile. "Since that camping trip, actually. On the second day, while you were skiing, she came to see me, practically begging me. She even said I was, let's say, better than you. Is that why you sent me away that day, huh? To be alone with her?" I snapped, feeling the blood rush to my head. "Brad, don't deny it. And hiring her as a waitress at the party was just another opportunity to have fun," he said with a disgusting smile. I picked up my phone and stopped the recording I had started as soon as he entered my office. "Thanks for the confession," I said coldly. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going down to HR." "Wait, Mason," he pleaded. "You can't use that recording." "We'll see," I replied. "Goodbye, Brad. I hope you burn in hell." I took my things and left. Never had a goodbye carried so much weight. As I reached the door, I heard him yell behind me, "And you forgot something." I turned around and saw him holding a framed photo of Molly, the one that had been on my desk for years. "Keep it," I replied. "If you and your son want her so much, she's yours. It's over for me." I left, leaving Brad in shock. On my way home, I heard Brad's phone ring. It was Molly, panicked. "He resigned." "What does that mean?" she asked frantically after Brad explained. "Yeah, he handed me a signed contract and a resignation letter," Brad explained. "He knows, Molly. I don't know how, but he knows." "What did you tell him?" she asked, panicked. "The truth," Brad replied. "I told him about our night on the trail." "You idiot," she screamed, her voice trembling with frustration. "And the picture? He kept the picture?" "He didn't want it," Brad said. "He told me to keep it. I think he's really decided to leave you." Molly burst into tears. "Now what do we do?" she asked, dejected. "It's not my problem," Brad replied indifferently. "He's your husband. Deal with it. Unless you want me to intervene and make him change his mind." "No," she murmured. "You've done enough. Stay out of it. I'll handle it." "Whatever you say," Brad replied before hanging up. When I got home, I saw Molly's car parked. I looked around to make sure Brad's wasn't there. I took my things and went inside. Molly was sitting on the couch, her eyes red and swollen. Without a word, I went straight to my office, locked the door, and opened the recordings of her conversation with Brad. Hearing her desperation, her attempts to explain, gave me both a sense of revenge and deep disgust. I sent the file to Lydia and called her. "Mason," she answered. "I just received your email. I'm finalizing the documents. When can we file them?" I asked, eager to be done with it. "If you want, I can take care of it today," she replied. I thanked her, hung up, and went to the kitchen. Molly was still there, unable to look me in the eye. I put my briefcase on the table, looked at her, and said, "We need to talk." I placed my old .45 caliber revolver on the table, within reach. She widened her eyes. "Is that really necessary?" she asked, frightened, looking at the gun. "I hope not," I replied. "But if your lover decides to come around here, I want to be ready." "My lover?" she stammered, visibly shocked. "Don't play games, Molly. I don't have the patience for it." I pointed to the chair across the table. She sat down, trembling. "Someone is coming by today with papers for you," I said. Her face paled. "Papers? You mean divorce?" "Exactly," I replied implacably. "I know all about Brad, his son, and the others. I've filed for divorce on grounds of infidelity." She shook her head. "You have no proof," she insisted. "Oh no." I opened an envelope and spread out the dated photos. Each one showed her in compromising situations with multiple men, including Brad. "I also have videos, recordings. Do you want to watch?" She lowered her head, aware that there was no point in denying it. "Okay," she murmured. "Given the circumstances, I'm still being reasonable. No alimony. You take half of our joint account. Our retirement accounts remain separate. I've canceled your credit card, and here's a cashier's check with your share of the balance. Oh, and also a restraining order. You have to stay at least 150 meters away from me, my house, and my workplace." Tears began to stream down her cheeks. "So you're kicking me out?" "Yes. You have time to pack your bags before the papers arrive." "And if I contest?" she asked, her voice trembling. I laughed. "You think that's a good idea? Can you imagine the reaction of the school board if I send them these photos and videos? Do you think parents will still want you teaching their children?" She slumped her shoulders, defeated, and nodded. "You wouldn't do that, would you? Do you want to take that chance?" I replied coldly. She shook her head, resigned. "Return your rings and get ready to go back to your maiden name," I said. "It's in the agreement." Molly looked at me, distraught. "You've become so cold, heartless." "I learned from the best," I retorted. "Just tell me one thing. What happened to you? How did you go from loving wife to this?" She couldn't meet my gaze. "It was during that camping trip," she murmured. "You were at the lake. I was resting in the tent. Brad came by. He saw me. He came in, and it just happened. A guy walks into your tent, and you throw away everything we built." My voice dripped with contempt. "How many times did this happen during that trip?" "Twice," she admitted. "Once while you were skiing, and another time when he sent you back to the office." I shook my head and pointed to the photos. I noticed that none of these guys were wearing protection. "Did you think about the risk of pregnancy or catching a disease?" "I'm on the pill," she murmured. "It's not foolproof," I retorted. "Did you think about the consequences at any point? Or did you just not care?" "My God, no," she breathed, covering her face. "For all these years, I had opportunities to cheat on you," I said, "with women far more attractive than you. But I never did because I believed I had a faithful wife. Now I see that I was living in an illusion." I pointed to the suitcases she had already packed. "Go pack your things. What's left here will be burned or donated. Please, we can try therapy. I swear I'll change." I looked at her, a vast emptiness inside me. "I will never forgive you, Molly. After everything you've done, now pack your bags. What's left here tomorrow will be gone." In tears, she began filling suitcase after suitcase. Once finished, she looked at me. "Can you help me put them in the car? It's your crap, deal with it. And remember, if you leave anything, even your wedding dress, tomorrow it goes in the trash." "My dress? My parents spent thousands on that dress." "Then you better take it if it means that much to you," I said, turning my back on her. 2 hours later, after she had carried her suitcases to the car, she returned, exhausted. "There's no more room in the car. Can I come back for the rest?" "No. You'll find someone to pick them up. But you're never setting foot here again. There's a court order." She gave me a sad, tired look. "What am I going to tell my parents?" "How about, for once, you tell them the truth?" I replied. "Tell them you cheated on your husband with his boss, and with plenty of others. If I do that, they'll disown me." "That's your problem," I replied coldly. "But if you try to make me look like the bad guy, they'll find out everything eventually anyway." At that moment, there was a knock at the door. I looked at her. "That's for you, Molly." She opened it. A sheriff's deputy was standing there. "Mrs. Molly Ford?" he asked. She nodded, and he handed her an envelope. "You've been served," he said. You need to leave the premises immediately. With tears in her eyes, she signed the papers and looked at me. I'm sorry, she murmured. Goodbye, Molly, I replied. She left without another word, escorted by the officer. The following days passed in a blur. I didn't hear from her again, but Brad called me twice, leaving threatening messages. Mason, I know you're there, he growled in one of the messages. Drop these charges, or I swear you'll regret it. I recorded the voicemail and sent it to Lydia, who immediately alerted the sheriff's office. A short time later, Molly's parents, Todd and Freya, called me to ask if they could come pick up her belongings. I agreed, on the condition that they make sure she doesn't come near the house. When they arrived, they tried to convince me to drop the divorce. She just made a mistake, Freya said tearfully. Surely you can forgive her. No. What did she tell you? I asked. She said she had an argument with your boss, Freya replied, visibly confused. I took out the envelope containing the photos and DVDs and spread them out on the table. Their faces fell at the sight of the images. I'm sorry she didn't tell you the truth, I said. It was much worse than she let on. Oh my God, Freya murmured, horrified. I had no idea. Todd's face turned red with anger. I'm going to have a serious talk with our daughter, he declared. As they carried the last boxes, before leaving, they both hugged me. Later that evening, there was a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole. It was Brad, his son Math, and two of my former colleagues. I went straight to my office, grabbed my gun, and called 911, keeping it hidden behind my back. I had barely opened the door when they barged in, Brad leading the way. I'm going to teach you a lesson, you bastard, he growled, approaching aggressively. I drew my weapon and pointed it directly at him. The four of them froze. Do you really want to test my patience? I asked firmly. For your information, I've already called the police. They're on their way. If you're still here when they arrive, you'll all end up in jail for violating a restraining order. Brad. I think he's serious, murmured one of the guys nervously, seeing the red and blue flashing lights already outside. Yes, Brad. I'm very serious, I confirmed as the sirens grew closer. They tried to leave, but it was too late. Two uniformed police officers were already at the door. Drop your weapon, sir, one of them said firmly. I put the gun on the kitchen table and raised my hands. Officer, I said, pointing to Brad and the others. These men have violated a court order, broken into my home, and threatened me. I want them arrested. Do you have a copy of the order? The other officer asked. I took an envelope from the kitchen drawer and handed it to him. He read it quickly and then turned to the four men. Turn around and put your hands behind your backs, he ordered. The officers handcuffed them while reading them their rights. Brad glared at me, but I stood there silently, watching them leave. Do you have a permit for that weapon? One of the officers asked. Yes, of course, I replied, showing him my driver's license and my concealed carry permit. He nodded and gave me a warning. Be careful with that. Understood. Thank you, officer, I said, feeling a strange sense of relief. When the police finally left, the next 3 months flew by as my life took a new turn. Working at Empire was infinitely more rewarding than any day at Brad's company. The weekly therapy sessions with Rose helped me manage my anger and trust issues, and I even adopted new habits. I joined a martial arts class to improve my mental discipline and followed a health and nutrition program that Rose had recommended. The divorce itself was quick. Molly didn't contest it. But the alienation of affection lawsuit, that was another story. Lydia had already warned me that this type of case was tricky. Nevertheless, 2 of the defendants were fired because of the scandal. But the case against Brad surprised everyone. After Lydia's testimony and presentation of evidence, including Brad's financial records, the judge ruled in my favor, awarding me $1 million in damages. At the end of the trial, the judge addressed Brad, Mr. H. He began, his eyes filled with disgust. Your behavior in this matter is repugnant. You not only betrayed a man who considered you a friend, you also abused your position to destroy his marriage and his private life. And I see here that you have repeatedly violated a restraining order. I rule in favor of the plaintiff and order the payment of $1 million in damages. Brad's lawyer stood up to protest. Your Honor, this decision is highly unusual. The judge gave him an icy look. No more so than your client's behavior. If the compensation is not paid immediately, he will risk a sentence for contempt of court. Case closed. He banged his gavel. Brad, completely defeated, signed a check that Lydia then handed to me. To my surprise, the check cleared without any problems. I paid Lydia's share and kept the rest. As news of the trial spread, several of Brad's clients contacted me to make it clear that they would no longer do business with someone capable of ruining another man's life like that. With contracts disappearing one after another, Brad seemed to be heading straight for bankruptcy. I stayed away from any relationships, even though some colleagues showed interest. Technically, I was still a married man until the divorce was finalized, and I wanted to do things right. When it was finally over, I celebrated discreetly with a few friends from work. A few months later, I received an unexpected call. It was Freya, Molly's mother. "Mason, it's Freya. Do you have a minute?" "Of course, Freya," I replied, intrigued. "It's about Molly," she said, her voice trembling. "She just found out she's HIV positive. She got the results today." "I'm sorry to hear that," I replied. "But to be honest, I'm not surprised. We're officially divorced now, so there's not much I can do." "I understand," she said softly, "but I was hoping you would agree to talk to her. She's having a hard time dealing with it." I sighed, not knowing if it would do any good, but I finally agreed. "Okay, Freya. I'll stop by for a few minutes." When I arrived, I was shocked by Molly's appearance. She was thin, frail, unrecognizable. She tried to approach me, but I raised my hand to keep my distance. Sadly, she sat down on the couch and motioned for me to do the same. "You look good, Mason," she said with a weak smile. "Better than in my memories. How are you doing?" "I'm not doing well," she confessed, looking away. "I'm HIV positive now. Your mother told me," I replied. "I'm sorry. I think it happened back then, with Brad and the—" She trailed off. "I slept with multiple men, and none of them used protection." I nodded, letting her words sink in. "Does Brad know?" "Not yet, but I'll have to tell him soon." I shook my head, trying to understand the chaos she had created around her. "I don't think he'll take it well," I commented, remembering his explosive temper. "Probably not," she admitted. She took a deep breath, looking at her hands. "Mason, I just wanted to tell you that I'm sorry. I realize now how many lives I've destroyed. I had the best husband anyone could dream of, and I ruined everything. I know you must hate me, and you'd have every right to. But I don't want to leave this world without knowing if, someday, you can forgive me." For the first time, I felt that she truly understood the weight of her actions. I saw regret in her eyes, and I remembered Rose's advice about forgiveness. Holding on to resentment only keeps us trapped in the past. "It's okay, Molly," I said, slowly nodding. "I forgive you." Tears streamed down her face. "Thank you. That means more than you can imagine." She composed herself slightly and added, "You deserve to be happy, Mason. To find someone to love, someone you can trust, start a family, and move on." "I will," I replied, touched by her words. "And if you need anyone to talk to, don't hesitate." She nodded, wiping her tears. "I won't. Thank you for coming, Mason. I've missed you." "I missed the woman I married," I replied softly. "And how are things with Brad and Math?" She shook her head. "Very bad. Since the trial, Brad has become even more violent, and his business is failing. He's been cruel to me lately. Do you want me to be there when you tell him about your diagnosis?" "No, but thank you. I have to do this alone." We said goodbye. As I was leaving, Freya hugged me tightly. "Thank you, Mason." That meant a lot to her. And to me, too. A few weeks later, during dinner, a news report on TV caught my attention. Local businessman and two others found dead in what appears to be a murder-suicide. Brad H., his son, and an unidentified woman were found shot to death. Police are investigating. I froze. I grabbed my phone and called Freya. "Freya, I just saw the news." "Was it her?" "Mason," she replied, crying. "Brad shot her, then their son, and then himself." "My God, I'm so sorry," I murmured, overwhelmed with sadness. I think she told him about her diagnosis, and he snapped. "They're doing the autopsies now." "Freya, I never wanted this to happen. I hope you know that." "I know, Mason. Thank you for making peace with her. I like to think she's at peace now." "Me too," I said softly. "Call me if you need anything." At Molly's memorial, I was there with her parents, paying my last respects. The autopsy revealed that Brad and Math were also HIV positive. Learning that, everything clicked into place. Molly had suggested everyone get tested, but upon discovering the results, Brad had snapped. He had taken her life, killed his son, and then taken his own. It was tragic, Everything seemed so senseless. I spent the next few days reflecting, mourning not only the woman I had once loved, but also the life I had thought I shared with her. The good memories remained like a bittersweet trace of what had been. Then, one day, as I was getting ready to leave the office, Tracy, a colleague, walked past my desk. "Hi, Mason," she said with a gentle smile. "Do you want to grab a drink with us tonight? I thought you might need some company." For a moment, I almost refused. The idea of opening myself up again seemed distant, almost foreign. But then something occurred to me. Life went on, and maybe I needed to move forward, too. "You know what?" I replied with a smile. "Some good company would be nice." "Great," she said brightly. "We'll meet at the Fisher after work." When she left, I leaned back in my chair, feeling a strange and welcome peace settle over me. Life was moving on, and for the first time in a long time, I felt ready to see where it would take me. Comment, Mr. Reddit. This story is a powerful reminder of the consequences our choices can have, not only on our own lives, but also on the lives of others. Seeing someone recognize their mistakes too late is painful, but it also shows the value of forgiveness, empathy, and resilience. What do you think? Would you have acted like Mason? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your opinion. If you like the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time.